Welcome back, everyone, to the one and only Ruby. Today we are going to be starting on page 34. 34, the chapter is called Quiet. Uncle Ivan and Uncle Bob fall quiet, and I feel bad. If you remember last time, at the end of the page 33, she's talking about how she misses Aunt Stella. So that's caused Ivan and Bob to get really quiet. We hardly ever talk about Aunt Stella anymore. We used to, but then one morning, Uncle Bob and I were recalling how much she adored carrots. She used to steal them out of George's shirt pocket. Uncle Ivan held up his hand, his eyes filled with pain. "I can't," he whispered. "I just can't seem to talk about her." He hung his head. "But why?" Uncle Bob asked. "I don't get it, big guy." Uncle Ivan spread his arms wide. "It's this," he said. "We have all this. Space and food and sun and flowers and friends. It's just not fair. Stella should have had it too." After that, we stopped talking about Aunt Stella. But we didn't stop remembering her. At least I did. "I'm sorry," I say. "I didn't mean to make you sad." The three of us look off into the distance as if we're expecting Aunt Stella to join us. "Don't sweat it, kid," Uncle Bob says. "Stella was a great gal. It's good to talk about folks you miss." He sends Ivan a "you should listen to me" look. "That's oddly mature advice," says Aunt Kiani. She narrows her eyes. "What have you done with the real Bob?" "I get zero respect around here," Uncle Bob mutters. Everyone laughs and the dark mood lightens a little. But I can see in Uncle Ivan's faraway gaze that he hurts every bit as much as I do. Night. And here's our picture of night. This is inside the elephant enclosure. Before bedtime, the keepers call us and we all enter the elephant pavilion, a huge high-ceiling building. It's brand new, built after a recent tornado destroyed many areas of the park. So here we have a reference back to the book that precedes this one, The One and Only Bob. Because if you remember in The One and Only Bob, the climax, the main event in that story centered around this tornado. And so here she's telling us, oh, this is brand new since that tornado. It's full of hay and water, toys and treats, and lots of soft places to rest. Elephants sleep in different ways and places, depending on how safe we feel. Here at the park, some of us lie down. But in the wild, elephants mostly doze upright. So this is letting us know that they feel safe because they're laying down in the park. Whereas in the wild, they would probably stand up more because they don't feel as safe. As nice as the pavilion is, though, I'd still rather be outside. Aunt Layla stops by to say goodnight. I'm in a quiet corner toying with a green ball. "I just wanted to say night and tell you not to worry about your tusk day, Roo," she says. She twirls a piece of hay with her trunk, then eats it. A thought occurs to me. If I didn't have tusks, would I still have to have my tusk day? I ask. "Yeah," Aunt Layla says, her mouth full. "Doesn't matter. Truth is, some elephants never grow tusks. They say that's happening more these days." "I wonder why." "Dunno, but I wouldn't be surprised if humans didn't have something to do with it," says Aunt Layla. "They usually do." She grabs another piece of hay and offers it to me. "No thanks," I say. "I'm really not hungry." "Suit yourself," Aunt Layla chews noisily. "Here's the deal, Ruby. Tusk Day is just our way of saying, hey, look, you're growing up." "But that's why we have birthdays," I point out. "How can I put this?" Aunt Layla pauses. "Birthdays are about you. Tusk Days are about us." So that's something for us to think about. If you think about your birthday, it's a day that you celebrate all about you because it was the day you were born. Everybody sings happy birthday to you. But she's saying Tusk Days are about us. And about us, she's talking about the whole elephant community. I pop down on my rear. Suddenly I'm tired. Us who? Us, elephants. Tusk Days celebrate the herd, the earth, everybody. "That's not really very helpful, Aunt Layla," I groan. "What if Aunt Kilo asks me something I can't answer? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I fail the test?" Aunt Layla drops her trunk around my neck. "It's not like that, I promise. Give me a hint at least. What do I need to know? Aunt Layla smiles at me with her good eye. Whatever it is, it's already in your heart. If you really loved me, you'd tell me, I say. Figure it's worth a try. I really do love you, which is why I'm going to tell you. Aunt Layla heads off. Get some sleep, sweet Tusky, she says. Whoops, I mean, that's all right, Aunt Layla, I say, and I force a smile to show her I'm not mad. I glance at the skylights overhead. Every now and then I catch a glimmer of moon racing behind clouds. I wonder if I will ever see moonlight without thinking of Aunt Stella. Moeezy. There's our picture for this chapter. Moeezy. Aunt Stella loved the moon. The cage she and I shared at the mall smelled like stale popcorn and moldy hay and animals who've forgotten how to hope. That's sad. But there was a skylight, and when the moon poured creamy light through the cracked glass, Aunt Stella would stare and wonder. Good evening, Moeezy, she would say. That's what she called the moon. When it was cloudy, Moeezy disappeared, we couldn't sleep. Our cage felt spooky, like someone had turned off the lights and stolen our favorite white blanket. Still, it wasn't all bad. It gave us an excuse to keep talking, and elephants in the wild don't sleep much anyway, just a couple of hours each day. Sometimes Aunt Stella and I would talk all night long. We always whispered so we wouldn't wake up Ivan and Bob, but Ivan snored so loudly that we probably didn't need to worry. Every night I had a zillion questions. I wanted to know why Uncle Ivan's tummy was so big. I wanted to know why humans hid their tails. I wanted to know if Uncle Bob would marry a cat. But one question had no answer. I wanted to know why Aunt Stella and I had ended up at the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. Why we were here and not in Africa. Aunt Stella didn't have an answer for that question. Still, we talked about it enough. She said maybe we wouldn't dream about it. Do you have a lot of questions? I do. My children always say I have too many questions. They say I drive them crazy asking questions. So sometimes it's a good thing to ask questions, but it seems like that Ruby has lots of questions. All right, our next chapter, Aunt Stella's questions. Before I fell asleep each night, Aunt Stella always had 2 questions for me. So she would say, "What amazed you today, sweet girl?" Sometimes I would pretend to be asleep because I couldn't think of an answer, but Aunt Stella wouldn't give up. She would stroke my back with her tongue or nudge me softly with her head and try again. "Come on, my Ruby," say. "What do you mean?" I'd ask every now and then just to buy some extra time. I mean, said Aunt Stella. "What surprised you today? What filled you with wonder? What made you feel awe?" That's what I mean by amazed. Anything can be amazing, Ruby. Anything and everything. She would leave with such hope in those wise, weary eyes. Somehow I knew my answer, no matter what it was, would bring her a moment of joy. I would think hard. I'd recall my day second by second, minute by minute, because elephants are good at that. I wanted something that would make her smile. Sometimes it would take me a while to find an answer. It's hard to be amazed when you're living in a dirty cage. But I always came up with something. I would look out the dusty window and say, "Fireflies amaze me, Aunt Stella. I wish I could make my room light up." Or I would watch Julia's dad clean the floors with his sudsy mop. And I would say, "Bubbles are amazing. They're like tiny rainbows that pop." Once after lunch, when Uncle Ivan treated us to the most awesome burp in the history of burps, I said, "Okay, I already know my amazing things for today. Gorilla burps for sure. No contest." After I answered, no matter what I said, Aunt Stella would gaze out at the moon and sigh the happy sigh I've been hoping for. But there was still one more question to come. "What made you proud today, little Ruby?" Well, I might answer, I said, "Thank you," when Uncle Ivan drew me a picture of a mouse. Also, I didn't tell him it looked like an apple with whiskers, even though it kind of really did. "Excellent," Aunt Stella would say, or "That's my gal." Once I answered, she would whisper, "I love you, Ruby," and I'd answer back, "I love you even more." Aunt Stella, and only then could she fall asleep. I'd listen as her steady breathing made gentle night music and let myself find rest. So, I have 2 questions for you today. What amazed you today, and what made you proud? I'd love to find out in the comments.